Once again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And since the Innovaris company represents solutions offered by CMR Surgical, right now I would like to ask Luke Hares to take the floor and to give a lecture on yes, so I'm terribly sorry. I'm terribly sorry. Yes, for sure. Really, excuse me. Of course, I would like to ask the ambassador of the United Kingdom to Poland, Dame Melinda Simmons, to take the floor and to address the participants. Sorry for this.
Thank you. So we are here today to mark the beginning of a truly exciting partnership, one that brings together British technological excellence, Polish scientific leadership, and a shared commitment to advancing healthcare through innovation. The signing of this agreement that we've just seen between CMR Surgical, Innovaris, the Silesian University of Technology, and the European Health Tech Innovation Centre really is a powerful demonstration of what can be achieved when nations collaborate, when industry and academia unite, and when technology is harnessed to serve people. The UK is proud to be a global leader in robotic and medical technologies. Companies like CMR Surgical are transforming surgery with systems like Versius, which is now being used in over 30,000 surgical procedures across more than 30 countries, making it the second most utilized soft tissue surgical robot worldwide. Over 70% of hospitals using Versius apply it across multiple specialities, including urology, general surgery, and thoracic surgery. So today's partnership will embed this cutting-edge technology within one of Central Europe's most advanced biomedical research environments. The European Health Tech Innovation Centre, located in Zabrze, is home to 36 state-of-the-art laboratories, and it's recognised as the largest investment of its kind in Central and Eastern Europe. It's a place where engineers, clinicians, and researchers collaborate to shape the future of healthcare. The creation of the Robotic Excellence Centre here will serve as a hub for training, for clinical research and technological development across the region. It will be the first training centre in Poland that will operate under standards accredited by the Royal College of Surgeons of England. And this collaboration reflects the broader strength of the UK-Poland relationship. Poland, with its dynamically growing technology sector and highly skilled engineering workforce, and the United Kingdom as a global leader in research and innovation, together form a strategic alliance that can bring real benefits to patients, to scientists, and to entire healthcare systems. By working together, then, we can accelerate the adoption of best practices, we can foster joint innovation, and we can build a stronger and more resilient healthcare ecosystem across Europe. Congratulations to all of those partners who are involved in this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Simmons. Thank you so much. And I would like to now ask Luke Hares to take the floor. Should we work in a minute? By the way, I'm sure not the presentation. Just a second, because we're experiencing some technical difficulties here.
No problem.
Sorry for that. Some just a moment. Technical difficulties. I'll try to fix that. I believe that it will take more than 2 minutes, so please excuse me, and could you please take a seat and I'll let you. Sorry for that one, however, okay, unfortunately, some issues are going on, sorry. for the problems. Unfortunately, for some reasons, some technical problems sometimes appear, but nonetheless, we've got specialists who can solve these problems. So I would like to now ask Luc to take the floor and just to give this presentation.
Thank you. I've asked. There's nothing like last-minute technical problems to get the blood pumping. A lot of grey hair from the last 10 years of dealing with that kind of thing. I have actually, annoyingly, being asked just to wait a minute for people to come back into the auditorium, so I will do that. No problem.
I believe that these are all who had just
Okay.
to participate in this session. So
I'll get started. Right. Hello, everyone. It was a tremendous honour to be asked to address you today. I'm enormously glad to be here at the start of what I hope is a very interesting collaboration between this organisation and CMR through Innovaris. I was asked to sort of tell a bit of the story of, I suppose in some ways, how this came about, how Versius came to be created, the reason for its existence, which in many ways is what brings us here today. So I will touch on the following three things. A bit on the genesis of Versius, why we felt it was a good thing to create a new kind of surgical robot, an introduction to Versius Plus, the latest iteration of our Versius system, and then a little bit on what the future holds and where I see things moving in the next 5 to 10 years in this enormously exciting field of surgical robotics. Genesis of Versius. A little bit about my background to start off with, as it is relevant. I'm a physicist. I'm not a clinician. I'm an engineer, I'm a technologist. I suppose I can plausibly claim that Versius is my brainchild. However, I should also recognise that it's taken hundreds of engineers 10 years to get it to the level of maturity that it is now. However, at the start of that process, myself, my co-founders, had to ask ourselves a question. And that question was that minimally invasive surgery was widely recognised as being the best way to have a surgical procedure. If you had to have a surgical procedure and it could be performed with minimally invasive surgery, it was much better to have it with minimally invasive surgery. However, the uptake, the availability of minimally invasive surgery then was about 50%. And it seemed fairly clear that that was simply because minimally invasive surgery is technically extraordinarily challenging to perform. The miracles that surgeons perform with manual laparoscopic instruments never ceases to amaze me. And advanced surgical tools, traditional surgical robots, did exist back then. They had existed for nearly as long as minimally invasive surgery had. But of that 50%, they were doing maybe 5 or 10%. So they weren't really moving the dial on the universal adoption of minimally invasive surgery. And so we had to ask ourselves why. Is that about affordability? Is that about ease of use, workflow complexity, size, suitability, ergonomics, all of the above? If it's just cost, well, cheaper surgical robots are now available. But actually, we felt it was more than that. For a tool to have been around for 20 years and not be realising its potential to us indicated that bigger things were amiss. And that was really what inspired our mission. So we had this vision that said that by inventing a superior tool for surgeons, we could transform surgery so that every patient everywhere could benefit from minimally invasive surgery. Fast forward to now, 12 years later, use of Versius is beginning. However, globally, the uptake of the availability, rather, of minimally invasive surgery is about 50%, and advanced surgical tools, traditional surgical robots, are doing about 5 to 10%. The problem remains, our mission, our vision remains as much as possible. And so, driven by innovation, designed for surgeons and built to elevate care everywhere, we felt we should produce a system. And that system had, we felt, three key parameters, three key features. It had to be versatile. In order to get the utilization up, it needed to be able to perform all laparoscopic procedures, optimized for doing all of them rather than just being suitable for a limited subset. It had to be easy to use. Now that means we had to be able to train surgeons and surgical teams effectively to use it. It also meant that it had to be easy for hospitals to adopt, so it had to be not disruptive. You know, it had to work with the floors, it had to go through the doors, it had to go in the lift, you had to be able to push it to the side when you weren't using it and use the OR for something else. If you can do that, if you've got a system that can do everything, you've got lots of people who can use it, and you're not disruptive to the environment that you are in, you have a system that you can keep busy. If you can keep it busy, you can transform the economics of providing it, and everyone can have one. And we felt that if we could do that, then we really would have a surgical tool that could make minimally invasive surgery universally available. That, of course, eventually turned into Versius. And I think it's worth exploring why Versius is different. And it's fundamentally, it comes down to two foundational technologies. The first is that we use slim, lightweight robot arms with a unique robotic wrist on the end of the arm to hold the endoscope and hold the instruments. Traditional surgical robots, the overwhelming majority of the different designs that are out there, use a mechanism called a remote center of motion. A remote center of motion mechanism is extremely good at swinging an instrument around a pivot point, which of course is what you need to do to perform minimally invasive surgery, and then you slide it in and out on a rail. However, it has got one significant problem, and that is that pivot point is fixed relative to the base of that mechanism. So to put that mechanism in the right place to do surgery, you have to have a very large supporting structure to hold it and to support it, to get it in the right place. You use the supporting structure during setup and tear down. You use the remote center of motion during surgery. And that means that they are inevitably large. You know, we're all familiar with the traditional picture of a surgical robot, and that's true whether you have it on a single monolithic unit or whether you mount it onto a number of smaller platforms. With the Versius wrist, we're able to use small robot arms. Small robot arms enable us to get into roughly the right place to do surgery, as well as perform the fine movements necessary for surgery, but to do so in a hugely smaller package. Now, this is absolutely fundamental to the form factor, to the way we respect the space around the patient of the Versius design. The other thing about small robot arms is, of course, that they're fairly generic. Our arms are collaborative robot arms. They're specially designed for surgery. The requirements of surgery are unique, so our arms had to be. We couldn't use off-the-shelf robot arms, had to design our own, not just because it was fun, though of course, you know, it was. And the critical thing about that is that all the advanced functionality, all the features that make these arms part of a surgical robotic system are defined in software. And now that's got one really important benefit. As we learn from our customers, as we learn from clinical use, as we have over the last 5 years, especially from systems in Poland, we can refine and improve that behavior just by refining and improving the software. Let me give you an example. One of the things you have to do in robotic surgery, of course, is to change the instrument. And in a traditional surgical robot, you do that by sliding the instrument back along a rail. You can then change the instrument and slide it back in along the rail. It works very well. However, that rail is physical hardware. You can't really change the properties of it without changing the physical hardware, which, if you've got a substantial install base, would be a very expensive proposition. Versius creates a rail in software. If you get a chance to be hands-on with the system, I'd recommend trying this out. You can pull back the instrument on a virtual rail, you can change the instrument, you can slide it back in. Works equally well. But the parameters, that behavior, the feel of that rail behind the software can be changed and improved. Over the last 5 years, CMR has done a software release every 6 months for Versius. It's enormously improved the system based on the feedback of our users. That, in general, has led to the Versius system. Again, I would recommend anyone who hasn't had a chance to actually be in the room physically with one, go and have a go, especially if you are used to traditional systems. It's really quite different. Smallest footprint, especially around the bedside. Massively versatile. You can put the bedside units where you want. The arms have an exceptional range of motion for such a small arm. Open console to facilitate communications. Operates sitting or standing for maximum ergonomics. And the real question is, did we manage to achieve what we wanted to achieve? Did we create a system that was versatile, that was easy to adopt, easy to use, and which people could keep busy? And I'm pleased to say that after 5 years of clinical use around the world, we have demonstrated that we have. You know, some of our sites, including sites here in Poland, have managed to get exceptional levels of utilization. We have the clinical data that shows that it can do everything, and we know from experience that teaching people to use it is not difficult, and it does not disrupt the hospitals we put it into. It's adaptable, versatile, and digitally driven. We did it fairly rapidly. CMR was founded in Cambridge in January 2014. It was less than 5 years to our first in-human clinical use in 2019. The first Versius were in Europe and in the UK in 2020. Fast forward to now, we are in the process of getting FDA approval for the Versius Plus system. We already have FDA approval for the original Versius, and we recently just launched Versius Plus, the system that contains all the improvements that we've learned over the last 5 years. So let me talk just a little bit about Versius Plus, the latest and greatest iteration of the system. It's important to understand what drives the main difference between Versius and Versius Plus, and that simple answer is experience. A few years ago, 10 years ago, I coined the expression, everything about surgical robots is hard. I was talking about the technology, rather naively. Having been in clinical use for the last 5 years, what I've realized is that everything about surgical robots is hard, and an awful lot of it you only learn when you actually really get out there. The system is used in anger by its intended users. And so we have been in constant communication, both by being present, but also by monitoring the data and looking at clinical outcomes, the use of Versius, and we have taken all those learnings. We've been improving continuously over the last 5 years, and now feel that with the launch of ICG, it's worth sort of starting a new chapter with the Versius Plus. Compared to the launch system, the Generation 1 as we call it, the Versius Plus has over 2,000 electromechanical improvements. All the instruments have been entirely redesigned. It has an ICG imaging system now. As I say, over a dozen software releases, ultrasonic dissector, and continual updates to our apps. And I'll talk about the apps and the digital side of this a little bit more in a few minutes. Versius Plus is part of an ecosystem. I think this is probably an inevitable part of being a surgical robot. It does work without any of this stuff. One of the original design requirements was that you could just push it into an OR, plug it in, turn it on and start operating. So none of this is necessary, but it is, I think, valuable. You know, as well as the essential robot, there is the family of instruments. That's a marketing 5 millimeters. They're 6.8 millimeters in diameter. I am an engineer, but that does mean they fit through standard off-the-shelf instrument ports, 3D imaging system, ICG, the training essential to drive the adoption, including VR, enabling people to train at home. We also have the digital insights, the registry. Launching a complex medical device like Versius is pretty intimidating. Relying on fairly slow clinical studies to prove to you that it is safe and effective when it's in use would be frankly terrifying. So we launched with the registry. We sought to record the clinical outcomes of every single Versius procedure so that we could see as soon as possible whether it was safe and effective or if there were problems. I'm pleased to say it was safe and effective. Automatic video upload, Versius Connect, Versius Teams apps, providing hospital dashboards, taking the data the system generates and making it available to hospitals and to surgeons so that they can learn from it and have their performance improved. This has led to very considerable international adoption. As was mentioned earlier, I'm tremendously pleased that we're in over 30 countries. We have over a couple of hundred systems around the world. And I'm even more pleased about how those hospitals are using the system. You'll remember at the beginning, the premise was you needed to design a system that was versatile. It's part of the name. And only 15% of our hospitals use Versius in one specialties. 85% use it in more than 2, 50% use it in more than 4. This is the key to getting value from the hardware, driving up utilization, and we are used in a tremendous range of surgical procedures. Indeed, I think we've probably got in our registry just about everything you could imagine. So we feel that we've now, in those 5 years, generated the clinical evidence that demonstrates the system does indeed achieve that vital objective. Let's talk briefly about the future. Versius is a tool. What are tools meant to do? Tools are meant to empower their users. They're meant to make their users more effective. And for us, that has to be aligned with the original mission of making minimally invasive surgery available to everyone. And really, if you split that down, I split it into two things. I split it into the physicality of surgery, tissue manipulation, picking things up, moving them around, cutting this, sewing that. I'm not a clinician, I'm an engineer. And with Versius, we are seeking to provide that to all users. But all users is a very, very broad a group of people, and they have very diverse needs. And currently, we only really make one Versius system, Versius Plus. However, Versius Plus is a modular system. You'll remember seeing bedside units and console. In the future, I can see us really leaning into that modularity. Rather than supplying a system, wouldn't it be better to supply a range of arms, perhaps with varying levels of complexity, and a range of consoles, perhaps with varying levels of complexity, perhaps one is just a VR headset, and then allowing hospitals to optimize how they use that equipment in order to get maximum benefit for the investment they've made. One example. The other side of this is in democratizing the expertise. We have a vision for digital surgery. Digital surgery is one of those sort of nonsensical phrases that means whatever whoever you're talking to means at the time. But for us, it means getting to the point where every single Versius procedure is automatically improved by data and insight generated from all Versius procedures. What do I mean by that? Well, I think Google Maps is a pretty good example. Google Maps is different from just the sort of moving map displays that we had in our cars 10 years ago. And it's different because it takes information from all users and uses it to inform your experience. It tells you there is a traffic jam 20 minutes up the road, so maybe you should go on a different route. How do I map that onto surgery? Well, we're collecting how the procedures are performed. We're collecting the clinical outcomes. We're collecting video And with a surgical robot, for the first time ever, you have something between a patient and their surgeon that can inform and improve the process of surgery. Let me give you a couple of examples. Currently, if you try to fire an electrosurgery instrument and you can't see the tip, Versius will let you. And the reason it'll let you is that our model for risk management is manual laparoscopic surgery, and you can do that in manual laparoscopic surgery. I'm pleased to say it doesn't happen very often, I think in part because we use a button for activating the electrosurgery rather than pedals, but it can happen. Actually, I think it would be better if Versius went, are you sure? Because I can't think of a single good reason why you'd want to do that. Doesn't do that yet, but it will come. But then imagine that because of the data we've gathered and because of better image processing and machine learning, I haven't said AI yet, but I'm getting close, machine learning, you get to the point where actually Versius says, hang on, you've left a pair of scissors back there resting on bowel. Are you sure you wanted to do that? It's got an increased understanding of the context of surgery, and it's also got an increased understanding of what is good practice and what is not so good practice. Fast forward a little bit further, and with the data sets you're building up, it's entirely plausible to imagine the system saying, hang on, with this patient, with these comorbidities, doing this procedure, having done the things that you've done so far, in 3 minutes' time, 5% of surgeons had this problem. Just watch out for that. The surgical equivalent of a traffic jam. Very early stages on all this stuff, right at the beginning of this chapter. But I think it's terrifically exciting. I think it's one of the things that as a European company with European collaborators, we are in a uniquely privileged position to be able to do. All the data we collect in collaboration with our users via data service agreements, and we store that information under GDPR, of course. And then the last and broader thing is, with Versius, we have a particular product, a particular device, but it is also the product of a technology. It's the product of a technology which is about telepresence, it's about collaborative robotics optimized for medical applications, and there are undoubtedly other things that we can do with that. We're not completely sure what they are yet, but this is part of the reason why I'm here talking to you today. I'm CMR's Chief Innovation Officer, and we're seeking to find people to talk to understand what those potential applications are. So at that point, I will stop. If there are any questions, I don't know if there's time in the agenda with the various ups and downs to take any now. Alternatively, I'll be very happy to speak to people after the sort of formal presentations are complete. Thank you very much again for this opportunity.
So thank you very much for the presentation. And right now we are almost in schedule. So are there any questions to Luke? I believe so. That as Luke decided, mentioned that probably, behind the scenes there will be major questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make regarding the conference here, because since originally okay, let's make it this way. We are very happy and we are very honored that our invitation was that you responded so positively. So originally the venue for the supper, okay, for the gala dinner was scheduled in another place. However, due to the fact that more and more people were attending the gala dinner, so we decided to change it into Hotel Diamond in Zabrze. So it's for those who attend the gala dinner, it starts at 7 p.m. at Hotel Diamond Zabrze. Okay, and now I believe that this particular session is closed. So thank you very much, and now it's time for lunch. Thank you for your time.